It's delightful to see so many of you gathered in the tavern here this evening, and I hope you have plenty of good drink in your hands, good food close at hand, as we're going to delight you with a wide array of songs tonight. But first, I have a special song going out to a very special certain someone. So, let's go. Skidamarinka-dink, skidamarinka-doo. I love you. Skidamarinka-dink, skidamarinka-doo. I love you. I love you in the morning and in the afternoon. I love you in the evening and underneath the moon. Oh, skidamarinka-dink, skidamarinka-doo. I love you. Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. So, we are rolling right on along here with the 5th level spells for the Bard Guide. And today's video is going to be a little bit shorter, a little bit more concise, just because, well, time constraints and everything with 2 initiates to have to care for, as well as, well, my wife has recovered quite nicely from surgery and everything. It still is, there's still a lot to keep up with, especially returning to work, running this channel, researching, editing, creating the slides that I need. It all just tends to add up a little bit. And top it off with I'm not going back to school this school year, it's still somehow I found myself with plenty of work to do. But enough about me whining on and whinging about all the goings on in my life and me stuttering and stumbling over myself. We are here to talk about spells. And specifically, starting us off here, we have Archon's Trumpet. This is one that I love the fact that, it's a sonic effect kind of spell. It's a 30-foot range, cone-shaped burst, and it's an instantaneous effect. There's fortitude saves to negate it, and spell resistance does apply here. Not great things to have, but still, the effects of it are, well, you make a thunderous sound like an Archon's trumpet, forcing all targets in range to have to make those fortitude saves or be paralyzed for 1d4 rounds. Now, there are a number of creatures out there that will be immune to the paralysis effects. For example, a lot of constructs and the like are immune to or resistant to paralysis effects. They don't have the central nervous system to affect with sonic attacks like that. There might be one that's vulnerable to sonic attacks, but that's a specific thing. At any rate, the fact though that you can affect multiple targets with this means you stand pretty decent odds of at least one or two of them being paralyzed for up to at least one round, and paralysis is a pretty nasty status effect to lay down on a target. Even having them disrupted for a little bit is a good thing. And if you happen to be next to or are able to target somebody with a terrible fortitude save, like a lot of living spellcasters, the fact that they're going to be paralyzed for at least one round, or stand good odds of being paralyzed for one round, is hugely effective for you from a mechanical standpoint, as well as it's a sensible target for a role-playing and tactics standpoint. I mean, no matter what the game is, Pathfinder, D&D, Rollmaster, Shadowrun, geeking the mage is important. That's the first thing you want to do. Geek the mage, take them out of play as quick as possible. But that's not the only thing that we have here. We also have Resonating Word. Now this one's a nice hefty medium range spell coming in at 100 feet plus 10 feet per level. You target one creature and it lasts for 3 rounds. There's a fortitude save for a partial effect and a half damage if they succeed on their saves. Spell resistance applies here as well. You speak a word of power and cause harmful vibrations to reverberate in your target. On the first round, they take 5d6 points of sonic damage and are staggered for 1 round. Fortitude save negates that staggering effect. By the second round, the target takes another 5d6 points of sonic damage and is stunned for 1 round. Fortitude save to negate. By the third round, the target will take 10d6 points of sonic damage and they're stunned for 1d4 plus 1 rounds. Again, you have the fortitude save to negate this and also have the damage. But even still, I mean, you're looking at over 3 rounds dealing 20d6 points of damage, and remember, sonic damage is not a type that a lot of enemies are resistant or immune to. This is incredible damage to have right here. And the staggering and stunning them for potentially multiple rounds is also massively helpful. This is the perfect thing to nail, again, an enemy spellcaster with, especially since it's medium range. You don't have to worry about getting right on top of the target. As long as you can see them, you can hit them. And the fact that spellcasters particularly tend to have not the greatest fortitude saves, you stand good odds, if not on the first round, second round, at least one of these rounds, that they're going to fail their save and have these status effects hit them. It's not going to entirely take them out of the game, but disrupting them and limiting their effectiveness is paramount. Absolutely incredibly useful. Or if there's no spellcaster, even being able to affect one target with this is going to be very, very incredibly useful. Great spell to have in your repertoire. And again, resonating word, it fits so perfectly with the Bard overall. But then moving along after that, we have another spell, Mirage Arcana. It affects 120. Excuse me, my goodness, I'll have to remember to cut that. It affects 1 20-foot cube per level. So when you pick this up at 13th level, if you pick this up, that's a total of 260 cubic feet altogether. It lasts 1 hour per level with concentration, so that duration's pretty goddamn nice right there. I mean, that's 13 hours that this will last for. And this works like hallucinatory terrain, but it allows you to make an area look like something else entirely, even something that doesn't necessarily fit or blend with the area. This includes altering or adding structures to the effect, which hallucinatory terrain does not allow you to do. This includes visual, auditory, olfactory, and tactile senses elements. It affects everything. It affects all the senses. It doesn't add or hide creatures unless they are able to hide themselves behind a feature. Like if you conjure up a bunch of shrubbery, trees, just dense foliage, then characters can hide behind that. But it's not going to say, if you create a mound of rocks, it's not going to hide them in the rock. They can hide behind it, around it, just keep out of line of sight from whatever creatures may be trying to spot them. But you cannot use it to deliberately hide them in that fashion. Also, as a side note, something that the Pathfinder system reference document points out, ships count as structures for the purposes of this particular spell. So on any high seas adventure, or possibly even airships, you can use this to generate these ships, these images, or disguise a ship as something, say, much more threatening than it might otherwise actually be. Absolutely a very, very useful spell. Lots of utility you can get out of that. And then there's another one here that this is absolutely critical. If they're a rating above blue, actually I think there is on some guides. I think they go purple, but I like to stick with the classics, clearly. But the spell is Shadow Bard. Now, it's a short-range spell, 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 levels, and it lasts 1 round a level. So not a huge length of duration here, but that hardly limits its effectiveness. You conjure a shadowy facsimile of yourself. It auto-follows you through teleport spells and the like, so if you start to blink around, or if you use Dimension Door, the shadowy bard will follow with you just automatically. They immediately begin using a bardic performance of your choice. It doesn't count against your daily bardic performance rounds, so it's not going to chew up any of that. And it takes a move action for you to change its performance to something else. And again, it still will not use up any of your bardic performance rounds. So you can get two separate bardic performances going, two different sets of buffs or debuffs, as the case may be, and really begin to start pumping out a lot of bonuses to help support the team, yourself, while keeping you in the fight, firing arrows, putting them downrange, and pin cushioning targets with the rest of the party. Hugely, massively useful spell. This one, all the others, they're useful. They're good spells. They're solid choices to have on your list. This is pretty much a must-have. This helps to multiply your effectiveness massively. But then we also have some spells that are quite not as good. They're just not as good. Although that doesn't necessarily mean they're not fun. They're just mechanically not the most effective. The first on this list is a Sabotage Construct. It's a touch spell, and it lasts 1 round per level. There's a will for partial effect, and spell resistance applies here. It's basically confusion, but for constructs. And when you're rolling for a confused construct's behavior, a 26 through 50 will instead indicate that the construct just twitches. Description says twitches spasmodically. On a successful save, the construct is only confused for 1 round. Now, you might be able to see some of the problems here with this. It's a touch spell, so you're having to get close to the construct, which is typically where constructs like to be, is right up close and personal there. And it lasts only 1 round per level, which, again, not bad. This will last you 13 rounds through a fight if you end up having to use it. But it's what really limits it here is how circumstantial it is. Constructs don't come up too terribly much over the course of gameplay. I make use of them myself from time to time, but a lot of the opponents I tend to throw at my players are more the flesh and blood variety, or they're some form of undead, or demons, or devils, angels on occasion, stuff like that. Constructs do come up, but it's just so infrequently that having this spell prepared regularly, daily, it's just not the best choice. It can be incredibly useful when it does come up, but only in those oddball situations. And after that, the next spell here, this is one that I absolutely love everything about it, but mechanically not that effective, and especially is not going to be hugely effective in combat. It's not going to be useful in combat at all, really. What this does, it takes 8 hours to cast. So yeah, you're not going to use this in a fight. You target 1 creature, and it lasts 1 day per level. So again, this will last you 13 days. Will save negates, and there's also will for partial effects. Spell resistance, again, applies here. You curse your target to attract rumors of a sort that you specify. If they fail the initial will save, then daily will saves are required to avoid doing or saying something that makes others assume that the act is incriminating and that the rumors that are being spread about them are true. The target also gets a -4 penalty to their will save if the target doesn't know the nature of the rumors. So if you want to go and make some scandalous, salacious, gossipy kind of rumor, something like, the Baron's wife is cheating because the Baron is thoroughly unable to satisfy her in any way, shape, or form. Not only is that scandalous for the wife, but it's also incredibly humiliating for the Baron. And if the Baron says or does something in public that can be interpreted as incriminating, as signifying that, the rumor must be true, then that's what will happen. And the curse is of a nature such that it will compel anyone who observes the incident to assume that the rumors are true. It gets to the point that the target will be eventually driven out of town by the locals, the townsfolk, anybody who's essentially observing the person is aware of the curse, the rumors. not necessarily aware of the curse, but under the effects of the curse, they'll drive them out of town and it will get increasingly hostile. Not necessarily on the brink of violence, but given how some people may react to being slandered like that, to being mobbed, it could turn violent. So this is something that's more role play heavy. This is something that has more to do with, you know, charisma, out and out charming people, and the effects of this are not something that's going to be readily mechanically beneficial. But if you're playing a game of courtly intrigue, well, this is the perfect spell for something like that. Absolutely ruining a rival's reputation is incredibly helpful in that regard. Destroying somebody's standing and their support base through a spell like this will achieve so many incredible results. But at the same time, that also means that those kinds of targets are probably going to try to take some kind of measures to protect themselves against spells like this. But again, mechanically, not effective, especially not in any way regarding combat. But it's absolutely appropriate for the bard to have. I love everything about it, like with some of the previous spells. Absolutely one I think you should have in your lists. Have maybe make use of it every now and then, especially even if it's just for a side story kind of thing. It's not any sort of cloak and dagger, courtly intrigue, or political maneuverings or anything like that. Even if you're not doing that, this could be just such a fun spell to use every now and then. Because, well, how often do bards get themselves in trouble? Probably more so than rogues typically do. But I'm not sure why I said but there, because this spell is just absolutely the perfect avenue for getting yourself into more trouble, or at least setting off a whole bunch of trouble. But what did you think? Are there some spells you'd add to this particular list? I know I've left a few things off. Is there anything you'd subtract from this list that you see as particularly unhelpful, not useful, things like that? Let me know in the comments down below. Engage in the discussion. I'm more than happy to do so. Hell, I love everything about doing stuff like this. And if you did enjoy today's video, well then hit the like button as well. Or if you didn't like it and thoroughly disagree with everything I've put here, hit the dislike button too. I'm more than happy to receive that feedback and information, and like I said, discuss and go back and forth with you all. But if this hasn't been your first stop today, well then I've got good news for you. There's a couple of videos popping up over this way that maybe you'll enjoy as well. Or if this hasn't been the first stop on your journey through YouTube at all, going down through that rabbit hole, well then, hell, why not consider subscribing? There must have been some reason you stuck around here, and certainly we'd be happy to have more friends, members, and alumni here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.